Wake up, NHL fans. I hope you had a great weekend. It is Monday, and we got a brand new week of Morning Cup of Hockey presented by Betway. If you're going to place a bet, bet on Betway, and remember to please play responsibly in Ontario only, and you must be 19 years of age or older. That's Colby Cohen. I'm Jonny Lazarus. We got a lot to talk about on today's show. Torts gets suspended and a big fine. We're going to get into that right off the bat, but we also got to talk about which teams won the deadline, which teams lost the deadline, and then we'll get into the New York Islanders, who are streaking right now. They've won 6 games in a row, and if you watched hockey yesterday, you saw John Hines pull the goalie in overtime to give the Minnesota Wild a 4-on-3, and it paid off right away. So a lot of things happened over the weekend, but I want to hear about your weekend first, Colby, because I know you like when I ask how you're doing.
Well, first off, Johnny, I thought you did a great job with the intro this morning. I really did. I thought that ad read was about as good as you've done. So I can see that you went back to the drawing board with that phonetic spelling, and you figured out how to read. So I'm proud of you for that. That sounded slightly professional. The weekend was good. It rained a lot in Philly, so that's always disappointing. But had a couple of good practices yesterday with the Flyers Warriors. I spent yesterday at a kid's birthday party, which is always fun, going to a 2-year-old's birthday party, especially when you start hearing about John Tortorella getting suspended like hours before. The birthday party just so happened to be Danny Briere's 2-year-old son's birthday party. So we were standing there, and they were playing out in the little play area, and Danny was on the phone. And when he got off the phone, he looked at me and he goes, "You'll never believe what just happened." I'm like, "What happened?" Like, Torch just got suspended for 2 games. I'm like, "Really?" And he said that the league was really pissed that he wouldn't leave the bench. It wasn't so much about what he said. It was more about the fact that he wouldn't leave the bench. And I asked Sean Couturier, who was, also there with his, I think, 4-year-old daughter. And he was kind of telling me that, like, he didn't really say anything that bad. I think he was just kind of drowning on. And Wes McCauley just felt like he needed to make a statement. I think Wes McCauley kind of, has become that guy who likes to kind of act and play. And the funny thing is Torts and Wes McCauley are both New England guys. Like, they're friends. They know each other going back a while. But Torts, this is where he's saying, "I'm not leaving." F off. I'm not leaving. Drop the puck. And what I asked Couturier was, what were you guys thinking on the bench? Like, were you guys all just like trying not to laugh or smile? Obviously, it was already 4-0 at that point, and they knew they were getting shit kicked, so there wasn't a whole lot to do. So it was just kind of funny for me that the timing of it all, of that all happening. Like I said, he was literally getting phone calls while I was there, and he was, then having to sort all these other things out. But yeah, I mean, look, I think Torts has kind of become, this sort of, I guess, national treasure to a lot of people. I think we always have known Torts to be this like fiery guy, but I feel like in Philly, he's gone to like a whole nother level of being, blunt and emotional and emotionally invested. And I don't know if it's because there was no expectations to really win. It was all about building a culture and kind of teaching young hockey players like what the right way to play is for longevity and for success. But he kind of he's really, like, I don't know, like I don't remember him ever getting this much attention for things when he was in Columbus, at least. Even though he would get attention for blowing up at media members, but I feel like he didn't get as much attention for everything else that he did. I feel like every decision he makes now, whether it's a healthy scratch, whether it's an argument, whether it's quotes in the media, whether he's telling a reporter, "I'm not answering your stupid question," like whatever it is, I feel like it always blows up now.
Well, also, this is his first gig after doing media, right? Like, he was doing ESPN for
like a year, I think.
Yeah, like a year or 2 years, maybe. I just remember him being on the point, right? Like
But he was the same way with Butchie and those
yeah.
guys on the point. They'd be like, "Come on, let's get the chicken parm." He'd be like, "Get it away from me."
But maybe also like that's why he's getting attention too, because maybe people just seem to have a deeper understanding of him after that year of being in the media, like where he would talk and would give his personality a little bit more. I
Well,
don't know like what would explain why everything he does is, I don't want to say under a microscope, but
it
it's
kind of
just
is.
it's entertainment. That's really what it
It
is.
is entertainment,
Yeah.
and you know what? I think the other thing is I think more people have gotten to know him, and I think
Mhm.
everybody likes him.
That's what I'm
Like,
saying. Like the year
listen,
in the
you can
media.
disagree with his decisions as a head coach, but I think away from that, I think everybody really likes him as
Yeah.
a person, and I think everybody he works around, people say that he treats them well. He's super respectful. He cares about his players away from the rink. I mean, you saw what he did for Kevin, what he said with
Mhm.
the Kevin Hayes situation recently. Also, like, he's always at dog shelters. He's always giving his time for different armed services and veterans and things like that. Like, the guy seems to be like a really good human being
Yeah.
away from the torts, persona of being a head coach. And I will say this: when the Flyers hired him, when Chuck Fletcher hired him, I thought it was a desperate, desperate thing. I really did. I was completely against it. I thought that it just reeked of desperation for Chuck Fletcher.
Mhm.
And maybe it was for Chuck. Like, I'm not sure. But man,
Well, they needed a change. They
I
needed
have
a coach
come
change.
360 degrees on Torts and the way that he's built this team up. The way that the players talk about him. I know a lot of those Philly guys. Like I said, I saw Sean Couturier yesterday. I saw Danny yesterday. We all were spending time at his son's birthday party talking about him. And I got to tell you, like, he's represented the Flyers and the city of Philadelphia really, really well. And when again, he doesn't give a shit about social media and this and that. So, like, I
Mhm.
bet a lot of it doesn't even get out there. But what he has done with the hospitals and the dog shelters and the veterans, like, super involved with all that stuff around the city of Philadelphia. And Alain Vigneault, who was here previously, did none of those types of
Yeah.
things. AV was not into, the community. He was like, I'm renting an apartment in Philly because I just know I'll get fired. I mean, no
Yeah.
joke. He
Yeah.
literally said that. AV said that to the owner of a breakfast place in Philly that I used to frequent all the time. And he was friends with Gabe Kapler, and a lot of athletes and different people go in there. And he told me that Vigneault told him, I'm only going to rent because I know, even though I have a 5-year deal, I won't
Mhm.
last. So there's a huge contrast. And
Yeah.
that's probably why this community in this city has really gotten behind John Tortorella.
Well, did you see what the CEO, Dan Hilferty, said also about the fine?
Mhm.
So
Yep.
this is, per Al Morganti. This is what Flyers
Philly
CEO Dan
legend.
Hilferty said, in quotes, "I'm really proud of Torch for standing up for his/our team. This is a new era of Orange, or this new era of Orange is about having each other's backs. Last night, Torch had our collective backs. I respect any action the league might feel a need to take, but if it includes a fine, I'm paying it." So just goes to show you how much they love him there, right?
Yeah,
Like
he's the CEO of
$50,000
Spectacor.
fine is pretty hefty.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that again, Dan Hilferty has been another guy in Philadelphia who's hit all the right notes. He's the CEO of Spectacor, Comcast Spectacor. He looks after the Flyers, the chairman, whatever you want to call it. And again, him, Jonesy, like, these guys have hit all the right notes. And you have to give them credit. And people wonder, like, can a coach make that much of a difference? Yes. Like, you're seeing it with the Flyers. You're seeing it the way they back pressure. You're seeing it the way they manage the puck. You're seeing the way these young players, like, he challenges and he's getting the best out of Owen Tippett. And, like, some guys will fold under Torts and some guys will thrive.
Mhm.
And the guys who thrive are probably the ones you want to have around. The guys
Yeah.
who fold, like Pierre-Luc Dubois, seem to have problems everywhere they go, and was just on the trading block to go to Boston over the weekend, which is crazy to me. Crazy to me. I'm shocked that Don Sweeney was going to go down that road. I really am. I feel like if you're going to move Ullmark, get something a little more reliable than Pierre-Luc Dubois. But Chef Richard is asking, could Torts be the next Don Cherry? I don't think so. Here's all I would say about that is like, just to be fair, like, I don't know Don Cherry's work as well as I know Torts's work. So it's hard for me to really say that. I don't know, I guess. Someone said Pizza Sports Guy, PLD catching a stray. Yeah, you know me. I'm not afraid to tee off on that guy because he's just so talented and he's just such a problem everywhere he goes. So here's my question that I would ask you, Johnny. The Flyers had a tough loss to Tampa the other night. You bet me they're not going to make the playoffs, right? I still have faith that they're going to find their way in. It might be a wild card spot, but I still have faith they're going to find their way in. Okay. Are they in trouble the next couple of games without Torts? I'm sure Brad Shaw, his longtime assistant, will take over for those 2 games. Do you think that their play drops because of that? Because remember, they just had a massive win against Florida, a game you thought was an easy win for Florida. And I pointed out to you that they've played well against the Panthers and top 10 teams this year. They have. The next night against Tampa, it was 4-0, 7 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
And granted, Coop called the team out. They lost to Calgary the night before. Coop called them embarrassing. So you had to know they were coming out with their hair on fire. And they beat the shit out of the Flyers. I mean, they beat the shit out of and the Flyers are a little banged up. So will they be in trouble? Like, do you think they lose these next 2 games without Torts? Do you think their style changes without Torts? Or do you think maybe it goes the other way and it's like, we got to get this one for Torts because he had our back?
I mean, these kinds of situations always feel like they rally a team together. And Philadelphia's next game is tomorrow night against San Jose at home. I don't really see them having a problem. I could coach them tomorrow night, and I think they'd be fine. And I don't even think
you know what, though?
What?
It's still the NHL. Like,
of course.
And here's the other thing. The Flyers, it's not like the Flyers can show up and just win with talent.
Yeah.
They're not that team. So these games against the bottom feeders, I don't think they're as easy as you may think that they are.
No, but I think this is not a very motivated Sharks group going up against a pretty motivated Philadelphia Flyers group on home ice. And say what you want. I know there's no easy game in the NHL, but the Flyers here are still competing for the playoff spot where San Jose, like, I know these guys are still playing for their jobs and whatnot, but there's not a lot of maybe pride on the line. I don't know if that's the right word to say. But you know what I mean? Like, the Leafs rallied around Morgan Riley, and I think these are kind of situations that we've seen in the past where something like this actually sparks a group like the Flyers to go on a run. And, last week we mentioned the Flyers schedule versus the Islanders schedule. The Islanders are taking care of business. They've won 3 out of 3 games. They've won 6 in a row. And I mentioned that they had to win 4 out of their next 6 because the Flyers schedule where it is right now. You look at Philadelphia's schedule past these 2 games, and the Islanders are going to have this hard part of their schedule as well. But Philadelphia has, like I said before, San Jose tomorrow. They got Toronto at home on Thursday. They're in Boston on Saturday. They're home again against Toronto the following Tuesday. Then they're in Carolina Thursday, home against Boston again that following Saturday, and then home against the Flyers again, and the Rangers. I mean, their schedule is insane right now. So if there is a time for them to rally together, it is right now. Because you look at the standings, the Flyers are the 3rd seed in the Metropolitan Division. The Islanders are now just 2 points behind them. The Islanders also have 2 games in hand. Like, it's only a matter of time to me until the Islanders catch them, and Philadelphia will catch themselves in a wild card spot. And then you never know with how teams are playing. Like, even the Washington Capitals have won 2 games in a row. They're now just 3 points back. The Red Wings have been on a pretty bad skid. They've lost 5 in a row, but they're, again, just tied with the Islanders in points. Like, teams are catching up a little bit. I don't want to count the Devils and Buffalo out of it yet because mathematically they're still involved. I'm going to say Pittsburgh's done. But yeah, this
Wait,
little.
So you think the Devils still have an opportunity? Really?
I'm not going to count them out. Like, I do think the Devils.
Is that because you're worried about being called a Rangers homer, or because you actually think they could make a run here?
No, I think they do. I mean, I don't
So
think they will.
okay, hold
What?
on. If you think they could make a run, what about the way that they've been playing tells you that you think that they could make
No,
a
no.
run?
I'm not saying I think they will. I'm saying I think they could. The Devils are a
Okay, so
team
why though? Why do you think that they
because
could?
the Devils are a team that could easily, if they just find their confidence and find their groove, they could win 5 or 6 in a row like that. Like I'm telling you, like the Devils they won 13 in a row last year. I know it's a different
Yeah, but
season.
what's a different season?
No,
They've
no,
been
I know it's a different
terrible
season.
this year.
I know it's a different
They
season,
look disinterested. They're
but if you
not getting
find
play
that
from their
confidence,
They're not getting play from their top guys. They've got 2 new goaltenders in. Like I mean, they're still banged up on defense. I don't know, man. I think
I'm not saying I think they will.
you're blindly throwing shit against the dartboard, thinking that like all of a sudden 60 plus games in, they're just gonna wake up and go on a run here and win 5 in a row.
I'm not saying I think they will. I'm just saying I think they could. That's it. That's a difference. And
Okay.
uh but
I
yeah,
think you're just kind of sitting on the middle there. You're just hedging. Like, pick a
no,
side.
I not told you that the Flyers will come out, the Islanders will go in, and I still think Detroit gets that last spot. But I'm just looking at it mathematically here. Like even Buffalo has been playing like pretty decent lately. Like they could even climb back. You see teams this time of year, some of them find a way to just make a push to the last second, and you never know what happens.
Well, I
But
think
the original point was that the
some
Flyers will
teams
rally
play
around this.
some teams play with house money, and
Mhm.
you see a little bit of, it's easy to play with house money when there's nothing to lose. You're playing loose and whatever. Sometimes that can be dangerous. I don't agree with you that I think any of those teams will be in. I think we know who teams are by now. Yes, a good team can go on a losing streak, a bad team can go on a winning streak, but generally, like, I always come back to this. Believe when a team tells you who they are for 60 games, believe them.
Mhm.
It's like when somebody tells you who they are for 300 games, believe them. It doesn't mean they can't step out of line here and there, but believe them, okay? We're not talking about 15 games here. We're talking about 60. So I'm still going to ride with the Flyers. I think they're going to find their way in. It was really interesting picking Danny's brain yesterday about some stuff on the deadline. It was an active day on the
Whoa.
phone.
Let me turn this on you. Are you just saying that because Danny Briere is your friend?
No, I think we've seen the Flyers battle all year. Are you okay right now?
I'm just playing your game that you play on me. I'm throwing it back at you.
Well, here's the thing. The Flyers have been in a playoff spot the entire season. Therefore, the Flyers have told us who they are. They have been one of the best 8 teams in the Eastern Conference for 60 plus games. Therefore, I think they will find a way to continue to be. They've had some losing streaks. They've had some winning streaks. Look how they fared against the top 10 teams in the NHL this year. It's been very good. So I'm going to stay with the fact that I think they will find their way in.
Why
Yes,
are you
they've got
talking
some
like this?
issues. Yes, they have some guys who are not coming back. They obviously traded away Sean Walker. I thought they did a great job getting a first for him. So look, we'll see what happens. It's going to come down to it at the end there, and we shall see what happens. Speaking of all that, why don't we just go into the deadline? Because we've kind of been bleeding into that, here and there with what we've been talking about. So
well, let me say this. First of all, kudos to you because you did a great job. You, Carter Hutton, Tyler Uremchuk, and Frank Saravelli, that 4-hour show. I tuned into at least 3 hours of it when I wasn't doing other stuff. But how was deadline day for you? That's a lot of talking, and that's a lot of hockey just to report on, I guess. You guys did an
well,
awesome
first
job.
off, thank you to everybody who watched. I mean, we had upwards of 150,000 people that tuned in live to that special. I know they were all tuning in for Frank, which is totally okay with me. I have no problem being a wingman. I see a lot of people in the chat are asking us trade deadline types of questions. So just give us a couple of minutes and we'll definitely try to touch on some of them. But yeah, man, it was a lot of information. I mean, I had a lot of notes in front of me. I was writing a lot of things down throughout the day. And I think just being able to react quickly and get your thoughts together and then be able to support it, it was unique. It was definitely different than anything else I've ever done. I was exhausted at the end of it. I think I got in bed by like maybe 7:30. I think my daughter went to bed at 7, and then I was, no joke, in bed by like 7:30. Like, I was absolutely drained. So I don't know how Frank does that for like 3-4 days in a row, also leading up to it. But I also know that Frank's taking a little family vacation this week, and I'll be sitting in for him on DFO Live every day this week with Tyler. So, you know, it's a well-deserved, it's well-deserved for him because of all the hard work that he does. And, you know, the other thing I appreciate about Frank is he's the only insider that credits other people when they get it first. You see it on social media. Nobody else does that. Nobody. But anytime someone else gets something first, he'll always say, per so-and-so, I have confirmed whatever, you know, so I give him credit for that. So let's go into the deadline a little bit. And here's where I want to start. I want to start with who had, you know, in your opinion, what good team or bad team actually did the most, you know, underwhelming job on trade deadline day, in your opinion? And I think there's more than one contender for this, and I think they sit in the same division, even potentially. Maybe not, depending on which way you go with it. We've got Darcy Sagan asking, did Edmonton do enough? Pizza Sports Guy laugh now, catching a stray. Pittsburgh in a world of hurt from Darcy. I think Columbus would be a good team for Pitt to make a deal with. I'm surprised PLD wasn't dealt at the trade deadline from Ronnie. Olivia, thanks for watching. I see that you said you watched most of it. You know, Deluxe asking thoughts on New Jersey going with Allen and Capo. So let's go into it, Johnny. Like, is the New York Rangers the biggest disappointment for you, or has the dust settled on that and you feel a little bit better about it?
That one's still tough. Like, I think it's more underwhelming than disappointing because they still filled the holes they needed to fill.
Listen, I think there's a major distinction between underwhelming and disappointing.
I agree.
I think there's a major distinction there, and I think that's important. So tell us why you thought it was underwhelming what the Rangers did.
Well, it was underwhelming because of the names that they were rumored to link or linked to, excuse me. You know, there was no talk a week ago about Gensel being connected to the Rangers. Then all of a sudden that comes out. Then it gets all the fans excited. It gets people excited. I mean, you have the biggest name at the deadline linked to your team. And not only is it linked to your team, it's either your team or a team you're competing against in the division. So when the Carolina Hurricanes go out and get Gensel, it becomes a much bigger deal than what it actually is. And when you see what Carolina gave up for Jake Gensel, everyone then questions, how could Drury not put something better together for that? Like we should have gotten him. You know what I mean? And then you think about the other names like Frank Vatrano, Pavel Buchnevich, who didn't even get traded. So that's not a big deal to me because they didn't even get moved. And then Anthony Duclair, I think, was another one who ended up going to Tampa. So, you know, the reason why it's underwhelming is because all these names were linked to the Rangers to really improve that first line right wing spot. They went out and got Alex Wengberg, who they thought, or at least most people thought they would end up getting as like a third line center. It was either him or Adam Henrique. Those were the two names that were floated around. They got their third line center, and then they go get Jack Roslovic, who's, you know, maybe not the flashiest name, but he's a great skater, a good player. Hasn't really had, you know, maybe the best opportunities in his career so far, but it's a chance for him to, you know, show what he can do.
Well, I mean, I don't agree with that. I mean, he's gotten opportunities to play with Patrick Laine. He's gotten opportunities. To
the team's been shit, though.
But not always.
Columbus,
he's been in Columbus a long time, and under Torts, they had some really good seasons. So I think you're completely wrong that he's never gotten any opportunity. The problem with Roslovic is that he's just been wildly inconsistent. He's been a skilled player at times. He's been again, you've got to, if you're going to be a skilled player, you better contribute offensively all the time. And if you're not, you better be really good defensively. And when you're caught in the middle, that's when you're one of these guys that rides the roller coaster of fourth line, second line, third line, whatever, on the power play, off the power play. So I don't think the Rangers were disappointing. I think a little underwhelming. I thought the return for Jake Gensel was really poor. I really did. I thought they went for quantity over quality. They didn't get Morrow, who I watch all the time at UMass and is a stud. They didn't get Jackson Blake from North Dakota. They didn't get the Nadeau brother from Maine. I mean, the fact that you didn't get one, I would have rather seen them get one stud prospect than 3 B prospects. Like it just wasn't a great. I didn't think a great deal. I don't know. Maybe that he just didn't want to move him to New York. Like that could always be a thing. I'm not really sure.
Mm-hmm.
You never know what these conversations are going on and who's talking to who and who's influencing who. So I don't know. Like I thought the fact that the Islanders didn't try to do anything was kind of interesting. I mean, not really, because it's 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
Do anything.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, Horvat should be counted though. Like that was a big trade last year. I know it's not at the deadline.
Yeah, that's
but
fine.
That should be counted.
No, but I just thought maybe there were some players out there that could have helped them, give them a little bit more offense and stuff like that. But the Islanders are playing good, and maybe Lou decides he doesn't want to mess with things right now. And look, on deadline day, coaches are asked and involved in these trades, like they are. These guys get say, and do you want this guy on your roster or not at the trade deadline? Mm-hmm. So you never know what the coaches were saying. Like I have someone told me like Rod Brindamore really wanted Evgeny Kuznetsov, somebody really high up in the organization. I think they were split on it. Management was split, and Rod said, I want this guy. And they said, okay, done. You know what I mean? He said, I can make this work. So that's how these coaches are more involved in the trade deadline than maybe things that are happening at other points of the season. What about winners of the trade deadline? I think this is kind of an obvious one, like who won the trade deadline on paper, but will it pan out is always the question, right? I mean, you bring in Hannafin, which I think as a defenseman, it's a little easier to bring in a defenseman like a Hannafin and have him do really well. You bring in Mantha, who's like a middle 6 forward. I think again, an easier guy to integrate. But then they go out and they make the Hurdle deal, who isn't even healthy right now. And that to me is the guy who I would think might take a little more time to acclimate because he's used to things revolving around him in San Jose. So on paper, do we agree that Vegas wins this trade deadline, or do you have a different idea?
I mean, you're also not even mentioning Mantha. Like that's another.
I just mentioned Mantha literally 15 seconds ago when you had that stupid blank stare on your face.
Yeah, I was looking at the roster.
Were you scrolling Tinder or something like that?
No, I was looking at the roster on daily.
I mean, I know you got stood up this weekend and you're back on the prowl, but geez, the fact that I said it 10 seconds ago and what's with these young kids these days who can't multitask?
I'm trying to get the roster up. I was looking at dailyfaceoff.com. I didn't.
This is where you do your homework before the show starts, Johnny. You know the things we're gonna get into, and you do you have a pen? Do you own a pen?
Yeah, I have one actually. I have a highlighter in my hand right now.
Okay, well maybe try getting a pen or a pencil and write some shit down. It might actually help you. I don't know, just an idea. That's all.
I usually do. I usually have my notes in front of me. But yeah, not today.
How have you liked the way that Kuznetsov has looked in Carolina through his first 2 games? Did you watch those games?
I watched a little bit of the Devils game. I didn't see much of the Flames game. The Devils game, I thought he was effective. I didn't think he was like unbelievable, but he looked comfortable actually in his first game, which I found really interesting. And I thought just seeing him in a Hurricanes uniform was still a little bit weird. But I spoke to some people that were covering the game. Mike Ashmore, he was there covering the game, and he said like, just talking to Kuznetsov, it was just him and one other reporter in the post game. Carolina didn't really have any reporters traveling for some reason. And they said like he was so just, genuine and in such a good mood, smiley. Like this is a guy. What do you have? You have a smirk on your face. I'm so terrified of what it is.
I'm looking at the chat and like Neil says, be nice, Colby. And then Jason, damn, chill on Johnny. And then he said, my wife said you're being mean. But wait. Can I just ask you all a question?
No, that's on me. That's on me.
I'm glad you guys are sticking up for him right now, but let me ask you a question.
That's on me.
You're having a conversation with your co-host, doing a live show. You're literally talking about
This
player.
has happened like 3 times in the last 3 weeks.
10 seconds later, he goes, well, you never even brought up the guy I was just talking about. Like, how is that on me? How do I need to be nice? Why do I need to coddle him and tell him it's okay when he has one job? Prepare for the show and then have a dialogue with me about the show. And he's not prepared. And then he completely ignored and doesn't even.
Don't say I'm not prepared. Don't say I'm not prepared.
So I just want to understand something. How is this on me? How is this me being mean? Help me understand it. Like, why are we okay? Why are we ignoring what he did wrong in this situation?
Colby sounds upset.
Olivia is on my side, and I'll take it.
I'm on your side here.
I'll take it. Okay. Everybody sticking up for Johnny right now. Look, sometimes, okay, I can be a little rough. Okay. but this time I feel like
it's warranted for sure.
This is pretty warranted.
Mm-hmm.
But you also take it very well.
Let's reel it back in. One team though that hasn't really been talked about, and I know it's not, maybe not I don't know how I would word it, but Tampa Bay Lightning getting Anthony Duclair and Matt Dumba. I don't know if Dumba really moves the needle on the back end, but getting Duclair in their top 6, I think, is a really big ad for them. And I feel like no one's talking about Tampa at all with the deadline moves. And Tampa, again, is a team that, Colby, you've said it now for a couple of weeks with John Cooper, they know how to ramp it up this time of year. And, they're not always the best regular season team, but come playoff time, Tampa's always a team to worry about. I know last year they were a first round exit, but 3 straight Stanley Cups those 3 years before. And I feel like no one's talking about Tampa, even though Kucherov's having this MVP season, they still don't seem to be a threat in the East for whatever reason. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first off, I just want to give thoughts on Jacob, who said, this Colby guy angers me. I'd rather listen to Johnny pretend to be a Rangers fan the whole show. Well, then what you should do is listen to Johnny's other podcast, and you should probably not watch our show, because he has a show where he is a Rangers fan the whole time. And if I anger you so much, it's pretty easy to just hit the X button.
Well, no, watch the show. Watch the show.
Anyways, well, so, look, I think, how about the fact that Tampa got Dumba for a 5th round pick too? They wanted a 1st round pick. Okay. They were shopping Dumba for a 1st. And when Sean Walker went for a 1st with a bad contract coming back, I think Bill Armstrong thought for sure that meant they would get something even close to a 1st for Dumba. They ended up getting a 5th for him. It was a seller's market. It really was. It really was. Wow. Now this guy is threatening me, 1v1 me. Oh my God. This has to be one of your friends, Johnny, right?
I have no idea who this is.
Oh my God.
I swear to God.
I love it though. Hysterical. So, look, we're living in this world of 1v1 is gamer talk. Okay, I didn't know that. I'm not
I didn't know that
either.
I thought it meant fight me.
Are you a gamer, Johnny? Do you play video games?
Yeah, I haven't touched an Xbox in like 2 years.
So, ultimately, I think there was more excitement this year. I think Vegas, went to the old LTIR move. I think everybody's still talking about that.
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't really even want to go too far into it, because at the end of the day, they didn't break any rules.
And we're on the same page here.
Mark Stone has a lacerated spleen. We don't even know if he's going to play in the playoffs. Okay. We don't even know. So, again, until the CBA is changed, it is what it is. Like, teams are spending money. That should make everybody happy.
But my question is, why does the salary cap just shut off in the playoffs? Like, why is that?
Because players don't get paid in the playoffs. And the reason for salary cap has to do with hockey-related revenue.
Okay? So is it just one big bonus at the end? Like, how does that work?
So here, just from a high level, okay? The NHL makes a projection on how much revenue the league is going to do, $5 billion, right? Then you've got to understand hockey-related revenue, 50-50 split. They have a formula. Here's how you get the salary cap, $95 million. I'm just throwing, or $100 million, flat numbers, rent, whatever. That's how they come up with the formula for the salary cap. Johnny, I know you can't read the chat and listen to me, so just listen. Okay. Follow along with me here. Yep. That's why escrow happens in the NHL, because let's say they withhold extra money from your paychecks, and if the league hits its revenue targets, the players get all their escrow money back, because the salary cap is built to be a 50-50 rev share with the owners, okay? If they don't hit revenue targets, then the owners keep a portion or all of the escrow, okay? That's why this escrow thing happens, because the salary cap is an estimated number of a 50-50 split with a formula of hockey-related revenue with the owners, okay? That's how it all kind of works together. Players stop getting paid April 15th, okay? That's your last paycheck is April 15th, all right? So after that, you're not getting paid for the playoffs. The more you win in the playoffs, there's a bonus pool of money that is then divvied out depending on what you do. If you win one round of the playoffs, you make a few $1,000s for winning one round. You don't make any money in the playoffs. Even winning the cup, you don't make much money. Winning the cup is not about making money. It's about the pride. It's about legacy. It's about winning. Okay. You make your money during the season, and then aren't you the one who said this? You make your name in the playoffs. Isn't that what you said last week?
It's not my direct quote. It was a quote from somebody else that I read. But back to that point though, something you're getting beaked hard in the chat right now.
By one guy.
So here's something I'm curious about too, though, Colby. Let's say an AHL player that's called up as a black ace gets in a playoff game. They don't get that NHL money. Like they don't see any payment for that.
When you're a black ace in the playoffs, you get per diem. And then if your team wins, like the Bruins won the year I was a black ace, I got a nice little chunk of money, which I was not owed. Okay. The players and the organization took the bonus pool and they split it up and they decided who was going to get what. I remember it was August and I checked my bank one day and there was an additional chunk of money in there. I had no idea it was coming. I didn't expect anything to come, but you did get $100 or $150 a day in cash per diem for the whole playoffs, which can add up, especially when they're feeding you a lot of meals. So it wasn't a bad thing for me. I was living at the W Hotel for 2.5 months in Boston.
Sick.
And because the team won, my whole incidental bill, which was probably like $5,000, went away. The team took care of our incidental bills. I was expecting to have to pay for my incidentals. All my nights at the bar, the restaurant, everything, team took care of it, which was awesome.
Yeah,
so honestly, kudos to the Bruins for doing that. That was super cool. That was really cool. Jason says, tell us how much, Colby. It was a lot, Jason. Living at the W and sitting down at the bar drinking wine every night. I mean, it was probably somewhere in a little over 10 grand for 2.5 months. Probably a little over, every time you order room service, every time, whatever. It was
there's people arguing about you in the chat right now. This is hilarious.
Whatever. Listen, that guy, if he doesn't like me, why are you watching our show? Leave. We're good without you, man. Who cares?
No, I want him to stay.
Okay, Jacob, then maybe you should FaceTime with him after the show and you guys can hug it out and talk about how much of a bully I am. Okay.
All right.
Let's go to your next favorite topic. Let's go to your next favorite topic, the New York Islanders.
Islanders are on a 6-game heater. We talked about it last week. They had to take advantage of this little part of their schedule. We say there's no easy games in the NHL, but there certainly are easier matchups. And this seemed like a spot where the Islanders could really take advantage, and they have. They've won 3 out of the 3 games, like I mentioned, that I think were must wins for them. And tonight they play a second night of a back-to-back in Los Angeles, but they're very close to jumping Philadelphia. I think we actually had a question in the chat before. Do you think the Islanders jump Philly and see a Ranger Islander first round? I think Colby and I talked about that. Was it before the show started today, or did we talk about it in the beginning of the show?
No, I think we were talking about it offline a little bit.
Okay, yeah. I do think Carolina ends up jumping the Rangers and takes the number 1 spot.
Which you've said for a while now.
Yeah.
To your credit, you've said it for a while.
All-Star break. That was my hot take going into the second half of the year. And, the Rangers play the Hurricanes tomorrow night. It'll be the Rangers' second night of a back-to-back. So that's a big game to watch out for, too. But, yeah, I think Carolina will jump the Rangers. I think the Rangers will play the Islanders in the first round, and it's going to be
awesome.
A hell of a series. But the New York Islanders right now, they're getting production pretty much throughout the entire lineup. They're getting good goaltending. Brock Nelson has 10 points in his last 6. Horvat has 9. Barzal has 8. Palmieri has 7. Engvall scored a couple goals. Zizekas has scored a couple goals. Dobson's added a couple goals himself, or just 1 goal. This is an Islander team that's really turned it around under Patrick Waugh. And, while we say they did nothing at the deadline, getting Patrick Waugh might be the only addition they needed,
Yeah. Well, and you look at the difference in the way that the Islanders are playing. They have been playing better, so I've watched them a little bit more as of late. And the fact of the matter is they're spending so much less time defending. Like, you don't see them shadowing guys in the defensive zone. You see them way more aggressively ending plays. The way they're back pressuring the puck now rather than back pressuring the weak side. Mm-hmm. And I think that's allowing defensemen to be way more aggressive with their gaps. They're killing plays a lot earlier. They're getting pucks in and out of their zone. And listen, they're spending a lot more time in the offensive zone. Horvat, we know he can score. I mean, we know it. And look, Barzal's playing good too. Do I think he's an elite franchise player? Hell no. But is he playing good hockey right now? Absolutely. Is Noah Dobson continuing to play good hockey? Yeah. And I've been saying this for a while. The one thing the Islanders have that most teams in the league don't have, no matter what the circumstance is an elite goaltender. They do have a number 1 elite level goaltender. God bless you, Johnny. Good job on the mute. Good job on the mute button, but I'll still say it. Even the people who are audio only can't see it. But look, they've got an elite goaltender. Sorokin is that. And when these goaltenders look at the way Shesterkin has turned his season around and looks like the unbeatable guy that we've come to know over the last couple of years in the NHL, that makes a big difference. It really does. But I just think defensively, they're not giving up the same amount of grade A's. They're not spending as much time chasing the puck around in their own zone. They're ending plays a lot quicker. And so they're not as tired, and there's more opportunity to get up the ice and get involved. And look, they do look like they're running their way into the playoffs. They really do. That first round series with the Rangers would be incredible. It would be absolutely incredible. But I will say this, and this is something you always like to point out, and you did point this out like 2 weeks ago, talking about this lay in their schedule where they had an opportunity to go win 5 out of 6 games. Listen to the Islanders' next 8 games. Okay. Rangers, Carolina, Detroit, Winnipeg, Jersey, Florida, Tampa, Philly.
That's after these. So these next 3 are still tonight in Los Angeles, then in Buffalo, and then home against Ottawa. So these next 3 are still, 3 should be wins.
Yeah.
And so it's after that where this stretch happens.
So we'll keep monitoring the Islanders. Listen, if they're gonna get in, if they're gonna play the Rangers in the first round of the playoffs, then I'm gonna root for them to get in, because that is something I want to see as a hockey fan. When you can see 2 teams with the same city under their belt, in their name, I'd like to see that. And the Sorokin-Shesterkin matchup, that I like.
The only thing I do fear is that it'd be so bad if the Rangers got back-to-back first-round exits to the Devils and Islanders. Oh my God, man, that'd be rough around here.
I don't think. Listen, the Rangers are playing good hockey.
Yeah,
they look like a good team. I mean, I know they were underwhelming on the deadline, but they still look like a good team. They've got the second best goaltending duo in the league, after maybe Swayman and Ullmark. I mean, Quick and Shesterkin have been incredible together. So I don't know, man. It's going to be good. I like what teams did. I think we're going to have a fun playoff season this year. I think it should be really good. So before we get to our tweet of the night, the last thing I want to hit on quickly is the Minnesota John Hines pulling his goalie in overtime to get 2 points. And we've got people in the chat talking about that.
Yeah.
That threw a lot of people off, right? Like you said, you learned that for the first time when this happened. The only reason I was aware of this rule was because I've called games in the NHL the last couple of years, and you have to know the rule book. You know what I mean? I would always keep the rule book next to me when I was broadcasting a game. just because, look, you got to know these types of ins and outs. So John Hines pulls the goalie in overtime. If they give up a goal there and Nashville scores, they lose the extra point, right? And they needed the 2 points. 1 point wasn't going to help them. So some big balls on John Hines. I love Hinesy. I know him from the U.S. national team days. He's a BU guy. I love the guy. I think he's a phenomenal coach, but what a move, man. What a move.
Also, here's my thing. If it doesn't pay off, if you're a Minnesota Wild fan, are you happy that your coach is kind of going for it? Or
No.
it's a dumb move?
No.
Because it's one of those like hit or miss moves,
Listen,
right? Like
it's the move where if you
Yeah.
make it, you're a genius, and if you miss it, then you're the front page of the paper the next day. Plain and simple. It's like what the Detroit Lions did in the playoffs, right? If they go for that and they hit it,
no. That's so different because the Lions were like dominating that game.
But I just mean, okay, fine, magnitude.
Like, the Wild are climbing.
But I just mean coaching decision. I'm just saying a decision that falls squarely on the coach's shoulder that makes you a hero or a moron, okay, to the fan base. That's my comparison I'm drawing.
Okay. The Wild are just like,
Yes, Todd, that's a rule, by the way. Why do you lose the extra point? That's
well,
just
I was going
rule.
to ask you that too. Do you like the rule? I think that's stupid.
I do like the rule,
like
and I'll tell you why. Otherwise, you'd win the face-off, and immediately every team would pull their goalie. Immediately. Because think about how hard it is to get the puck back in 3-on-3, let alone 4-on-3. Like, you know what I mean? Where you can't ice it. I mean, you can, but it's an icing. So I think it's a good rule. I think it keeps teams at 3-on-3. And if you want to go for it, there's a major risk involved. So I like this. I actually do.
Isn't there also a rule like if you do pull the goalie and there's a whistle, you can't put the goalie back in? I think I saw that as well as a part of it.
No, I don't think
I'm
unaware of that being a part of it. I'm not saying it's not. I didn't know that was part of it. I don't know. I just think, again, you want to take that risk. There's a reward. It's like using a challenge. You miss it, your team's going to go shorthanded. Like you got to weigh it out. I think it's part of the chess match. So I like it, Johnny. I do. But let's get to our Tim's tweet of the night. I think this is a pretty funny topic. We're going to want to chop it around a little bit. Let's fire it up.
Yeah, so this is a personal friend of mine, but before we show it, here is today's Tim's tweet of the night. Roll up win is back for Tim's 60th anniversary. Celebrate our big year with some big prizes: an all-electric Volkswagen ID4, a sun-soaked Hilton getaway, and cash with a daily jackpot of $10,000. Play today on the Tim's app. I couldn't do that.
For any of you who are watching this live that watched the trade deadline show, Tyler Yaremchuk does the roll up so well. And I told Johnny before the show today, I'm like, look, if you want Tim Hortons to keep investing in our show and giving us advertising money, you need to roll that R. You need to get in on that. So that was your first foray into the roll up for Tim Hortons, and
you saw me delay it a bit. I was pretty nervous for that one.
I'll give you a B-.
That's kind. You're just being nice now because people are being mean to you in the chat.
No, because here's what I would say. I like your effort. Your execution wasn't great, but your effort was there and your willingness was there. So that's why I'm putting you in the B category. I'm not going to throw you into the C category. Johnny went for it and it failed. All right. Well, look, I'm giving him a B- for effort and not execution. All right, let's go to it, Johnny.
Yeah. So this is my college roommate, Joey Duzak. The tweet was from Missing Curfew. They posted this video.
I didn't know this was your college roommate.
I sent that in the text. Yeah.
Oh, I missed that part.
Oh, yeah. I said this was my roommate in college, my friend Joey Duzak from Long Island. He scored a pretty big goal, I guess, against the Toronto Marlies, a team he used to play for, and sullied by the Marlies bench. Kyle Clifford on Toronto did not like it, and it turned into basically a Ridley Gregg, Morgan Riley situation in the AHL. So let's tee up that video if we can, Vic.
They come. Here comes Gaudette. Dusak, round behind, scores. Junk, absolute junk. Now Clifford and Dusak. Kyle Clifford is going to take him down. Joey Duszak turtles onto the ground. Not unexpected. Clifford will lead the game with a rain of boos falling down as Duszak gets up smiling. This is a guy who walked away on his team in a final game of a season.
All right, so I think everybody, I think everybody gets the point here, and
well, the play-by-play was pretty personal against Joe. That was crazy.
Well, look, this guy Joey Duszak quit on his team with 1 game to go, and he played for the Marlies. Like he didn't like the way they were using him, so he's a
defenseman that was one of the leading scorers on the team, and they were playing him at forward, and he didn't like it.
Doesn't matter, man.
There were times. I'm just giving the backstory.
Okay, yeah. So here's the thing: you never leave your team. Like you just don't do that. And here's the other thing: the American League. I mean, we hockey players refer to it as the jungle because it's fucking rough. Excuse my F-bomb usage. Usually try not to use it on the show. We try not to drop too many F-bombs on the show. But what I would say is that the American League is the jungle. Literally. The fact of the matter is, if you try to show up a team's bench in the American League, you are going to have somebody come looking for you. I mean, like, you've got to be smarter than that. I mean, even I knew that. I spent my whole career in that league, okay? My whole pro career was spent in the American League. And there are some scary, scary dudes in that league. I mean, Kyle Clifford's tough. He's not scary, but he's tough. I mean, I played with a guy, Bobby Robbins. He was scary, okay? McGrattan, he was scary. These were scary guys. Jacob Redlich, that was a scary-ass guy. Played with wooden sticks because he didn't need a stick. He didn't even need a stick, okay? These were scary men, dude. And you just got to know that, like, well, here's the other thing. Everybody's making a fuss about the fact that he went by their bench and he got, like, whacked. That's a Wednesday in the American League, okay? Going by the other team's bench and having somebody poke their stick at you or grab you, like, that happens every game in the American League. I don't know, man. Here's all I would say. If you're going to do that, don't turtle. Do not turtle. Your roommate, like, that is a
we were giving him a lot of shit in the group chat.
That is a weak ass decision. Okay, stand there, take your licks. You can drop your gloves, but you can try to tie up, but like don't lay down and turtle like that. I mean, if you're gonna go celebrate and showboat, be ready to answer for it. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
And like, I ain't going with Clifford, the big red dog.
That was a chicken shit move. All right. I ended up in a fight with JD Watt one year, leading the American League in penalty minutes. Brett Gallant leading the league in penalty minutes. I got caught tangled up with Jerome McGinley, my second game in the NHL. Okay. And I just took the smash to the face. You just sometimes you got to eat the shit. It's just part of it. So don't do what don't make those decisions if you don't want to answer the bell. Our producer, Leafs are the toughest organization in hockey. That's hysterical.
Yeah. It's funny though that both incidents are like Leafs players.
Look, and then they go out and they trade for Edmondson and they bring in Cade Weber's rights, who's 6'7". Maybe Tree Living is looking for some bigger, stronger players. I don't know, but your roommate, big disappointment there. He gets 5 thumbs down from me for that type of decision in that game. So
it was funny. We were all saying like it's the most Joe thing ever to do that and
so this checks out is what you're saying.
I mean, that's why the play-by-play was like, not unexpected, but he's a great kid. Like
I'm sure he's a good dude.
Yeah,
listen.
Just having a tough day on social media.
This is on the ice, okay? Yeah. You can separate. Dude, some of the meanest guys. Bobby Robbins, he was a psychopath. We should try to have him on the show one time. He just wrote a book, actually. I think it's called like Drugs, Sex, Rock and Roll, and Hockey or something like that. This guy came to Providence, fought his way through the American League, gets an NHL contract, gets a call up, fights a little bit in the NHL, then gets some concussions, But I got to tell you something. One of the nicest human beings I ever met, but a nut job. Like in practice, I wanted nothing to do with this guy in practice because he'd run his teammates. But those guys are sometimes the nicest guys, Johnny. They really are. So what you do on the ice and what you do off the ice, they listen. It's on the ice. It stays on the ice. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm just saying that's a shitty decision to do that and then turtle. You deserve what's coming your way at that point.
Anyone who knows Joe knows he probably had this coming at some point. That's all I'll say about it.
That's funny. And that's you saying that, which means it definitely is a thing. So
but shout out Joey. We love you.
Let's look at the games tonight, Johnny. Let's look at some of the games tonight. Let's preview a few of our games. Let's start with St. Louis and Boston. Boston's playing well.
St. Louis looked like shit the other night against the Rangers.
Do you think the team is rallying around the fact that they tried to trade Ullmark? Do you think maybe this is one of those things where they're like going to shove it up the GM's ass that they tried to do that?
Didn't Swayman, when they did their like post-game hug, was like, "You stay," right?
Yeah,
I saw that.
I thought that was cool. I like that.
I don't think it was like uncommon knowledge that Ullmark was probably going to get moved, right? Like, I still think he will this summer. No.
Yeah, but he has no trade. He's got no trade protection.
Yeah.
So,
I wonder where he said no to, because it said like the quote was that he came out and said no to a certain team because of geographic.
Vic, can you go to Cap Friendly, please, and look at the stipulations of his no trade clause while we're doing this? I don't want Johnny to do it because I don't want him to get too distracted so he can't finish the show. So Vic, why don't you look that up? We're going to get into a couple more of these games, and then we still have to talk about our Betway bet of the day. So, Johnny, New Jersey, New York tonight. New York 20 points ahead right now in the standings. I mean, you're talking about two teams that are trending in vastly different directions. Okay, wait. Ullmark has a 16-team no-trade list this year. Next year's a 15-team no-trade list. So, take that for what you will. New Jersey, New York tonight. What are you looking for? Are we going to see your boy, the Empire State Building, make some noise against the Devils tonight? I mean, is there a little retribution coming?
Well, if you remember correctly from the last time these two teams played not too long ago, Rempe got ejected from the game about like 4 minutes in after crushing Nathan Bastian. And the Devils, I'm sure, are going to want to respond.
But who and how?
Huh?
But who and how?
Brendan Smith is their guy usually that drops.
Listen, I love Smitty, but if Smitty fights Rempe, that is like when we get off the show, I'm texting Smitty and telling him, "Don't do it. Don't do it."
He's nails though. Like I can see
he is nails.
Yeah, he's not afraid. So,
but he's also another guy, great guy off the ice, Smitty. Like
I don't think he's a scumbag on the ice. He's just tough.
Known him since we're young kids. Awesome guy off the ice, super friendly, super fun, loves to hang with the boys, but don't fight Rempe. Don't do it. Rempe, dude, 6'7", 8, whatever. Like, don't do it.
We just got a text from friend of the show, Matt Murley, going back to Ullmark, said pretty sure it was LA that Ullmark turned down. So that's
that was
rumor boys there.
Huh? No, that's been widely reported. I mean,
I'm
sure those guys talked about it too, but I didn't know that I don't think that's a secret at this point.
I didn't know that. I didn't see that.
Is Merle's watching in Sweden right now?
I guess. Yeah, I guess. So shout out Merle's.
I love Merle's. I can't wait to see Merle's at the Frozen Four. Anytime you're around Merle's, it's a good day. He's just fun. He brings the energy up. He's a vibe guy, Merle's.
I went on their show on Friday for the deadline. That was a lot of fun going on game notes and talking a little Rangers with Merle's, Colby, and Witt. But yeah, back to the Ranger Devils game tonight. I do think there will be a lot of fireworks in that one for sure. Also because the Rangers kicked their ass in New Jersey like 2 weeks ago. So maybe some payback here for the Devils tonight. But Washington, Winnipeg, the Capitals, again, I've counted them out all year, and they're still
shit on them all year.
And they're still sticking around.
You know what? Just to go off topic,
the
biggest disappointment that I had for the Rangers was that they didn't bring Max Pacioretty home. Yeah,
what happened there? Did you hear anything? Because I know you're friends with him.
I wouldn't say I'm friends with him. No, that's not true. I know Max, but I just think that.
Oh yeah, didn't you fight him too?
We fought in juniors, Max and I. Max is a really good player. I've always been a huge fan of the way he plays. Very tough to play against. But so here's what I heard. I heard that they couldn't come up with a deal with the Rangers and that he wouldn't waive to go to other places. He either wanted to go to Florida or the Rangers and would not waive his no trade to go anywhere else. I think he could have really helped them. Although in the last little while, the Rangers haven't had a ton of success bringing guys home. I know the Jonathan Quick thing has worked pretty well. But I could say the other moves like Shattenkirk, Bonino, there's been a number of guys that have come home and it hasn't worked out. I don't know if maybe that's why. But I would have loved to have seen them add Max to that lineup. He's a big, powerful guy. He could play on the first line. Like he could have been on your top line as a power forward. And, I think he brings a lot to that team. But huge game for Washington and also Winnipeg. Like Hellebuck's had a number of games in the last couple of weeks where he's given up 5 goals. Like they need Hellebuck. They need Hellebuck to be Hellebuck, right? I mean, they made a ton of moves with Toffoli, and obviously they brought in Monahan. Like they're pushing their chips in Winnipeg, and they're going to need to eventually see some deep results because it's been a couple of years for those teams. So last game of the night, the LA Kings and the New York Islanders. The Islanders will finally face a little bit of a West Coast test. I don't think the Ducks or the Kings have been a big test, and that'll lead us into our Betway bet of the day. Please be 19 years or older. Don't forget, Ontario only. And I always say this, but bet responsibly. Don't be a degenerate like Johnny or like Merles when you're betting. So let's bring in our producer Vic, who's been a little bit hot and cold so far. I wouldn't say you're off to the greatest start, Vic. I wouldn't. And I got to be honest with you. When you told me about your bet today, I'm not sure how much I'm riding with you on this one. So let's hear what you got today, Vic. What are you looking at?
All right. Thanks, Colby. Today I'm looking at the New York Islanders on the money line. We're riding the hottest team in hockey right now. I like to do that a lot. When the team's playing well, I like to get in on them. They've won 6 in a row, outscoring their opponents 30-11. It is the second half of a back-to-back, so we're getting plus money on this. I do want to let you know as well that Varlamov did get the start yesterday, so we're getting Sorokin tonight. Sorokin plus the hottest team in the NHL, the Islanders. I'm riding Islanders money line. Bet of the day.
I like it.
All right. So Islanders money line. Hey, you can never go wrong riding a hot team, but I do think that, like I said, you're trending towards the end of a road trip. These road trips get harder and harder, especially when you're 3 out of 3. Like you look at a road trip and you're like, all right, we need to get at least 3 wins on this or 4 wins. Like when you start getting close to it, sometimes your play can drop off a little, but they have been hot. So thanks to Vic for our Betway bet of the day. Ontario only, must be 19 years of age or older. And as always, please bet responsibly. Johnny, got any final thoughts on today's show?
Not really. I mean, 4 games tonight, 4 good games. I'll be at the Rangers Devils game. I'm actually going to go right now to the Rangers morning skate and hopefully talk to Jack Roslovic, one of their new acquisitions. So excited for that. And yeah, I got nothing else really. You?
We just had Graham Scott hit us in the chat and say, what about Curtis McDermott? Is Curtis McDermott? He's a Devil now. That's right. I guess they traded for him.
Yeah. He could drop him tonight.
His first game, he played like 3 minutes or something like that. I guess he would be the guy to challenge Rempe tonight, not Brendan Smith. That would make more sense. I forgot that they even had McDermott. He doesn't play a lot, so he's probably going to have to do that, especially if he wants to get a couple of minutes in this hockey game. I'll leave you with this, Johnny.
Yeah.
Okay?
I wonder if they go right off the opening draw.
I'll leave you with this. Is Matt Rempe an opening night lineup of the New York Rangers for playoffs?
I think so. 1,000%. I was questioning it a little bit, but the more I see, the more I love.
What were you questioning? Who could you have in there?
Well, I think it was dependent on what they did at the deadline. But with what they brought in, I still think Rempe has a real spot in this lineup that's effective. Like
But they added without
they took
subtracting.
Edstrom out and they took Brodzinski out the other night. And Edstrom, I thought, had a really strong game playing with Jimmy Vesey and
So
Barclay
let me
Goodrow.
ask you this then.
Yeah.
Let's say hypothetically they play the Islanders, okay?
Mhm.
You're starting with Rempe in?
Yeah.
Like really? Like
Yeah.
for 8 minutes a night, 9 minutes a night? What's his ice time been like?
It's 8 effective minutes a night, that's for sure. If it is 8. Let me check his actual.
Yeah, I don't know what
ice
he's
time.
averaging.
I know Thomas Hickey said if he gets to like 10 minutes a game, it'd be even more effective. We were going back and forth a little bit on Twitter, but also everyone in that room loves this kid. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's not only his play on the ice, like he is a contagious personality.
Yeah, but can I ask you a question?
What? How much does that really matter?
But no, it's not that how much does that really matter, but don't you kind of love all your teammates when you go into playoffs and you're battling and you have each other's backs? I mean, that's pretty like
But
I think that's a pretty
this one's different.
That's a
This
pretty
one's
like
different.
vanilla comment to make about a team going into playoffs. Like they love him.
Well, let me tell you why. Also, his ice time right now on average is 5 minutes 44 seconds, so it's not a lot. But
Right. But so wouldn't you rather have somebody that could potentially contribute on your fourth line and play like 11
he can
minutes?
contribute though. He like didn't score technically, but he had that, goal waved off the other night, which was a really strong play. He also creates offense. He does. He's not just like, I spoke to
In his
Foxy
5 minutes a night, he creates offense.
I spoke to Foxy about it after the game, and Foxy even said in his quote, like, he's not just some sideshow. Like, he comes in, he plays hard, he puts fear in the other team.
So
Like, he really
do you think his teammate would
Whoa,
call him
whoa,
a
no, no, no.
sideshow?
My turn. I think what you were saying too about the personality and guys loving him in the room, the Rangers' identity has shifted since Matt Rempe got called up. They weren't a team that was necessarily known to be hard to play against, a team that was in your face. Matt Rempe has given them a bit of that. And there's no way you can deny that. He has literally changed the identity of this team. And I think that's another reason why you keep him in. Like, I watched him play against Florida, the best team in the NHL, so be it. And Brandon Montour, Aaron Ekblad, Gustav Forsling, they were checking their shoulder every 2 seconds when Rempe was on them. Like, it was not an easy night for them.
So, but how many shifts though? If he's averaging 5 minutes a night, that's a very small portion of the time. Look, I disagree. I don't watch the Rangers as closely as you do, right? But I do watch them because they play in primetime slots all the time. I think that he makes them a more physical team, but I think the Rangers were already a in-your-face, hard to play against team.
No, they weren't.
What do you mean? No, they've been good defensively all season.
Good defensively doesn't mean they're in your face, hard to play against.
So how are you?
If you're a defenseman playing against the Rangers, who are you afraid of that's coming to forecheck you?
Well, first of all, Jacob Trouba is the most feared hitter in the entire
forecheck?
NHL. I'm just saying. We're just talking about.
You're saying a different thing. You're taking.
So you're saying that Matt Rempe can change the entire course of a team's identity with 5 minutes a night.
You should know that as a defenseman, though, when you're going back to retrieve a puck and Rempe's on your back, you're probably a little bit worried.
I mean, you certainly want to make sure you're not vulnerable, but Johnny, we're talking about 5.5 minutes a night. We're not talking about 15 minutes of playing time. So here's the thing. I'm not being negative about this player. I think this kid has been great. I love it. It's fighting is back in the NHL. It's being talked about. I think all that is great. But I just think to say that he's completely changed the identity of a team that's been in first place in their division the entire season, I think that's an insane overreach of Linsanity, basically, only it's for Rempe.
No, it's what the guys in the room have said too. Like, I'm telling you,
how many games has he played?
I think
a dozen,
not less. Let me pull it up. I just had it up. He's played 9 games, and they're 6-2-1. 6-2-1 in those 9. 1 goal, 1 assist, +2.
Listen, again, you can't say he's not making an impact. I get that. But I just don't agree that he's changed their entire identity in 9 games, averaging 5 minutes a night. I'm sorry. Like, I just don't agree to that. Like, you've got the best goalie in the NHL, okay, who's playing incredible. You've got a team that has been good 90% of the season. They've been in first place in their division. right? I mean, how many days have they not been in first place this year? The Rangers.
Merle's just chirping us now.
What's Merle saying?
He said, I'm back in Troy till June 10th. Johnny was asleep, said he didn't know who Omar turned down. He's too worried about the Devils tonight. But yes, Colby, we've gone on a little long here on the show today. I gotta get to Rangers.
All right, you gotta go. You gotta go to Rangers skate.
Yeah.
But I want to just leave it with this. I
Mhm.
disagree with you about this whole. I'm not saying the kid doesn't make an impact, but to say he's changed the New York Rangers in 9 games, averaging 5 minutes a night, I think that's insane. I think that's an insane comment.
I'm standing by it. I'm standing by it.
Well, you do that,
and we'll see what happens tonight, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. How about that?
Okay, we'll see if he reaches 9 minutes of ice time. How about that?
I think he will.
Hey, can I ask you one other question before we go? Can I just ask you one more question before we go? How's that number 13 been the last 5 games?
See, I was hoping we'd get off the show without this topic, and I actually gotta go. I gotta go. I can't do this right now.
Can we just see how it's been for Alexis Lafreniere lately now that we're going to do this whole Rangers thing? And we look at, he's had 1 game in 5 games with a point, but at least he had a multi-point game. Here's the other thing that really sticks out to me about this guy, Johnny Boy, is that on a team where everybody's a plus player, he's got the second worst plus minus as -4. Only Barclay Goodrow is worse for regulars in the New York Rangers lineup. So I don't think that this guy is an elite hockey player. And we can finish with that. We're going to have John Michael Lyles on the show tomorrow, former teammate, star in the league forever. Used to hold every record defensively for the Avalanche until your boy Cale Makar came along. But we'll have him from the Wine Cave. If anybody watches the Colorado Avalanche broadcast, Johnny broadcasts those games from the Wine Cave. So we'll have Johnny Lyles on the show tomorrow. Future former Leaf, Bruin, Av, Michigan Stater, one of my favorite guys I ever met in hockey. So I can't wait to talk to Johnny tomorrow. I know you got to go to Rangers morning skate. I want you to ask Peter Laviolette today, did Matt Rempe completely change the identity of your team in 9 games? That's what I want you to ask him today. And then I'm sure you'll get a favorable answer. Then you can post it and tag me. Okay. And then I can ignore you for the rest of the day via text message.
All right. Well, I won't get my fucking question in if you don't let me hop off the show. So can we go? Thank you to the chat. Thank you for having my back today. Thanks to our producer, Vic. And we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a great day.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.